Good evening. Welcome to the NWP call this evening. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for your time. We're starting something new or maybe a different way of looking at things. And that's about this quiet authority that NWP has established over the past 85 weeks now. My goal is very simple, and that's to assist you in building generational wealth. I'm not sharing it from any other perspective than my own lessons that I've learned and my own experiences that I've had with the system. And I want you to maximize your capital growth whilst maintaining your full control. And that's sovereignty over your own assets, your own money. It is a financial presentation, so this is not financial or investment or legal advice. Do your own due diligence, ask questions, and understand how NWP manages your funds. That's most important. True confidence isn't sold, it's earned through results. A lot of things are simply defined by volume. We choose clarity in NWP. The NWP system is engineered for transparency. Performance remains the only metric that matters. 85 consecutive cycles, no lapses, no excuses. It's precision, and it's delivered 110, actually a little bit more than 110% of the targets set by the traders have been achieved in the 85 weeks. It's consistent, uninterrupted. It really is something that we all rely on. There's no question when it comes to the consistency of NWP. In most markets, they ask you for your money and you wonder how they're going to trade. Now, in NWP, we're not making promises about the future. All we can do is look at the past. How have things happened in the past? What do they offer you? And how do they make this money? And that's through three things. The Forex markets. Obviously, the Forex is one of your deepest capital pools in the world. So it makes it obvious that you would use Forex trading. But then there's also metals, gold and silver, and energy. That will be strategic positions in the oil and those type of energy things, if the traders deem that fit. Because it's not, yes, they'll always trade Forex, they might trade metals and energy, but it just depends. They professional traders, they decide as master traders whether they're going into those trades or not. The most important thing to understand is that there's zero slippage. And what happens in trading is if you're an undisciplined trader, slippage happens because you will wait for opportunities. The NWP traders are simply looking for consistency. They don't allow slippage. That's sort of an undisciplined approach to trading. They would rather go and get small amounts, making sure that your capital is always safe. They're giving you institutional levels of investment, but without the risk that you would normally take when you go into trading and investment. Now, one of the reasons that they are so strict is because they will only use typically about 30 to 40% of your capital, but the maximum that they can use of your capital at any one time is 50%. So, and there's no exceptions to this. Your capital has to be preserved, and they can never exceed 50% of the usage of your capital, because anything more than that would increase the risk. And they're all about keeping the risk exceptionally low. The company is built for resilience. It's a distributed infrastructure. There's zero central risk. Now, what happens is, in many times, the laws change and the regulations change within countries, and that causes problems for any company. With NWP, the oversight is simply done through the Istanbul office and then distributed across many different brokers and traders throughout the world, so that there's no one central point of failure. Should anything happen, should some laws change or something like that, they simply would move it to another broker. traditionally the world thrives on locked capital. You know, you put your money in, the first question the bank or the brokers ask you is, how long do you want to commit your money for? In NWP, you'll never commit your money for more than a week. That is the time period that your money is locked away for. So it's locked away from a Monday to a Friday. On a Saturday, you decide what you want to do with your money. You always get your profits, but you also have access to your capital on the weekend. Traditionally, your money is locked for at least 365 days. In other companies, NWP, it's completely different. So therefore, it's 100% liquid. There's no subscriptions, there's no contract, and there's no penalties. So if you're taking out your capital, there's no penalties when it comes to the NWP system. Now, when we look at the NWP system, and specifically, it works on a weekly compounding, or that's the advantage that you have, that you can actually get weekly compounding. In NWP, we don't just grow capital, we increase the velocity. Typically, and what a lot of us don't understand is that a typical financial institution will actually only compound your money once a year. In NWP, you are compounding your money every single week. So there's 52 times more cycles than you would get in a traditional market. That gives you exceptional velocity through the NWP system. So it's steady, it's verifiable, and it's real. All the consistency that I speak about, the figures are there. You can have a look at them. You can decide for yourself just how consistent things are. And I encourage you to look at it to start your growth. There's different portfolios available to you as an NWP partner. As soon as you join, you become a partner. You haven't paid anything. You decide what you want to do and how you want to participate in the system. The foundation portfolios, here you can open a portfolio from anything between $10 to $5,000. We used to say 9,999, but to be accurate, I've just made it like this because you can only open a $5,000 portfolio. If you, let's say, for instance, you did want to put in $9,000, you would simply put in $5,000 and a $4,000 portfolio, and those two would be your portfolios. You can have as many portfolios as you want. Let's look at the monthly target here. Now, 5% is the monthly target. You're not waiting a month. Every single week, you'll get your profits, and you decide what you're going to do with your profits. The target is simply there so the traders and the brokers have committed to, it's not a guarantee, but what we have seen in the consistency is that they have committed to 5% or more in the foundation portfolios per month. And actually, if we look at the last 80 weeks, they have achieved more than 6% on average. Some months a little bit higher, some months a little bit less, but never less than 5%. It would always be 5% or more, but in some months they've actually achieved 6% or more. Other months closer to the 5%, but always above that. So, and that's the case with all of the portfolios. This is where you establish your foundation and you grow. Now, when we look at growth, and what we look at here is the historical compounding momentum, and that's based on you getting your profits and putting those profits back so that you can compound your profits and get the growth. If you're doing that with a foundation portfolio, you will normally double your money in about 18 months. That's the value of the foundation portfolio and what it offers you. So there's a momentum there of 18 months when it comes to the foundation portfolios. Moving on to the growth portfolios, this is anything from 10,000 to 20,000. We did used to say 49,999. So if you were putting in 45,000, for instance, you would put in a profile of 10,000, a profile of, and make up the 45. So 20, 20, and 5. When you're looking at that and you're saying, okay, I wanted to put in 45, but the portfolio, when you open a $5,000 portfolio, for instance, it'll go into a a foundation portfolio and not a growth portfolio. And I'll show you a little bit later the merge function of how you would manage your portfolios so that you can get the maximum target. In this case, the maximum or the target, the average monthly target or the minimum target that the brokers look for is 8%. So therefore, all things being equal, you're looking at about 2% per week. And that's sort of, if you were doing sums, you could look at 2% and say, well, on a weekly basis, I would get about 2%, but on a monthly basis, I would get at least 8%. And that's sort of, again, not a guarantee, just something that historically we look at, and that's what the historical results have shown us. Now, when we look at the historical compounding of the growth portfolios, here we're looking at doubling your money with the compounding effect in at about 8.5 months. So it's increased that, the other one was 18 months. Here we're down by 10 months to doubling your money in 8.5 months. Then we move on to the top tier portfolios, anything $50,000 or more. The monthly target here is 10%, and this is the maximum performance tier. Now, at this level, based on the momentum and the compounding of that, your profits on a weekly basis, you would then achieve doubling in 6.5 months. It's all about where you start. You can start with as little as $10. But if you're looking for that compounding momentum, the way that you would ensure that or almost ensure that you could get compounding on a weekly basis was having $1,000 or more in the system. $1,000 or more will predictably give you about $10 a week profit, sometimes a little bit less. Most of the time, on average, you would have $10 or more to be able to put in, and you would get a compounding effect on the weekly basis. So that's really where your momentum will start. But you can start wherever you want, build it up, and just know that when you get to $1,000 or more, that's when your momentum is really going to start and meaningful growth will take place. Incidentally, when we talked about that doubling, that's based on small amounts. You will still get a doubling effect from your foundation portfolio in 18 months, regardless of how much you put in. It's just that you will create a little bit more momentum if you do have the higher figures. Let's look at the results. I've been talking about the trading and what's happened. Here are the results from this very last week. So that was the 85th week of trading, the foundation portfolio. And what you see in your current back office is the full week's profit. When the new back office comes out tomorrow or in the next day or two, when that release of the new back office, you will simply see the profit that you would have made as what we look at here in the middle, the portfolio profit. So currently, they're showing you the full 50-50 split, or the full profit, the gross profit, and the 50-50 split is what you get. The 50% goes to the portfolio. That's the owner that put the money in, and the other 50% will then go to the business volume. In future, you will only see the portfolio profits, and then you just know that what was actually earned and how your business volume is calculated is double whatever that profit you see in future. At the moment, it's half of what you see. So in the foundation portfolios, 1.18% was gained. So if all things were equal again in the foundation portfolios, you're looking at about 1.25% per week to get the 5% result. Here, 1.18. The next one, remember the growth portfolios, you're looking for about 2% to get the 8%. Here, this week is up 2.23%. Elite portfolios, you're looking at around about 2.5% per week to get the 10%. Again, 2.36, so it's slightly lower than that. But as I say, you always get the average or you get the target or more. We looked at last week, and if you missed the Zoom last week, we looked at the results of a 5-week month, and our 5-week month was over 6% for the foundation portfolios, over 9% for the growth portfolios and over 12% for the elite portfolios. The advantage of the 5-week month, however, what it spoke to me more about when I look at statistics, and I sort of love my statistics, what it shows is that remember that the traders could actually give you 5%, 8%, or 10% respectively if they were under pressure. And what last week's result shows that the system is under no pressure whatsoever, therefore they're able to give you the extra. If they were keeping or holding back because of the new week, and if they were under pressure, because that's how the traders work and that's how they can stick to their targets, because in a very good month, they will take the extra. In a very bad month, they'll pay in. So that's how we get the consistency as well from the traders because of that smoothing effect. They have to, deliver 5, 8, or 10% respectively. When there's more money, they'll be giving more. When there's a little bit less, they'll still stick to their targets and make sure that you get the money that was promised to you, and they would take the hit. In a good week, they'll take the bonus, but you will still get, like we saw last month, the bigger percentages anyway. So I hope that helps you understand a little bit how the trading works and how the smoothing effect works so that you get consistency and why there has been so much consistency over the last 85 weeks. It's easy, sometimes when we see percentages, it's not always easy to work that out quickly. So what I've done here for you is that I've worked out the actual earnings from a foundation portfolio with $1,000, the growth portfolio with $10,000, and the elite portfolio with $50,000. There are the results. I see there is a typo there, week 83, but it's actually the week 85 result. And 101.18% giving the profit there on the foundation. Remember, we were talking about the compounding effect earlier. So even on a week that's slightly lower than the medium sort of 1.25%, you'll still get enough to be able to make a reinvestment for the week. It's only when it's very low that you wouldn't achieve something out of the $1,000. But on most weeks, given the medium average there, you will have enough to reinvest your profits for the week out of a foundation $1,000. There you can see there's a 5% withdrawal fee. That's 5% of the profit that you make for the week, not 5%. So you see sort of like, oh, we only earn 5% for the month. And I've often been asked, if I earn 5% for the month and the withdrawal fee is 5%, how do I make any money? Well, it's only on the money you withdraw. That's how the 5% is made. So you can see that on the actual foundation, growth, and elite portfolios. If you look at the elite portfolio there, they've 1,180. 5% of that is $59. Therefore, you will receive $1,121 in your crypto wallet. Just to mention, this is not cryptocurrency trading. So when you see that the Bitcoin price is doing something funny, it's nothing to do about crypto. What happens is, obviously, because it's international and there's members from all over the world, it's simply easier to use USDT Tether. That's the stable coin. It's simply there for the transaction and movement of money. It's not there for the trading. The traders do trade in US dollars, yen, wherever they are, and whatever's applicable to the region they in the stock exchanges they deal with. So it's not a cryptocurrency platform. So you don't have to worry when you see the Bitcoin price or whatever price go up and down. It's not affecting you or your trades. Everything in the NWP system is about manual control. And this is often seen as friction by people. But one thing I want you to understand is that the friction, the seeming friction that you get or have to do in the NWP system is actually the best thing that could happen, because you're actually verifying the system every single week. It's like you're an auditor and you are checking the system. So it's The profits that I've been talking about, they'll come to you every single Saturday. So most of you are in the South African market. And when you wake up on Saturday morning in South Africa, your profits will be shown in your back office and they're available for you to instantly withdraw. It's at a third-party payment gateway. The profits are always separated from the capital, and there's never any internal rotation of money. Every single member has their profits sent to that third-party payment gateway, and they need to do an instant withdrawal of that capital. The profit, the capital is also available to withdraw on the weekend, but they will withdraw that profit because if they don't withdraw the profit, it will simply lie at the payment gateway, and only your capital remains with the brokers, and that'll trade on a weekly basis. So if you want to increase your capital with your profits, you take that out manually and you redeposit, open a new portfolio, and it goes back into trade so that you can get the compounding effect from your money and your capital that you put in there. So also, if we look at many of these companies out there, they always just talk about your capital and your growth. There's no talk of that ever. Your capital is your capital because on a weekly basis, you have turned your growth into capital. So there's never any issue. Your capital is always capital. It's never capital or growth, as a lot of the normal systems will talk about. Your capital is new and it increases on a weekly basis. Now, when you want to start, these are the following cryptocurrencies that are available. You've got USDT on the Ethereum network, on the Binance network, and on the Polygon network. And then there's options of BNB on the Binance network and also USDC on the Binance network. The withdrawals, as I said earlier, that's a 5% fee with a minimum withdrawal of $10. You can withdraw either Polygon USDT or BEP20 USDT. Both of these are the very cheap options. Polygon being the cheapest, BEP20 being slightly more expensive. But when we talk about slightly more expensive, Polygon, you might be charged 1 cent for a transaction. In BNB BEP20 protocols, you might be charged 2 cents for a transaction. If you are using the main Ethereum network, you'd probably be charged $3 or $4 for a transaction. That's the difference between using these type of stable coins as opposed to standard USDT on the Ethereum network. Your capital withdrawals, the first time you take your capital out of the system, it's 100% free. After that, 2% fee will be levied on your capital withdrawal. Please understand that every time you make a withdrawal, NWP pays for that. Obviously, someone pays the fees. The first time your capital, NWP will pay that withdrawal fee for you. And the reason why they do that is NWP sees your capital as sacred. It's your money. They don't want control over it. They want you to make money. And as far as possible, they would not like to charge you a fee on it. Therefore, your capital, when you do withdraw it, there's a 0% fee on the first time you take capital out. And obviously, the next time, well, then they meet you at that point because the fee is actually a little bit more than 2%, but NWP actually does meet you on that to make the withdrawals of capital. Because the capital comes from the brokers, the profits come from the payment gateway. So there is a little bit of a higher charge for NWP to actually withdraw capital from the system. Your money never stays with NWP at any stage. So when you actually make a deposit, the system automatically splits that and sends 30% to the broker. The broker can then ask for more of that capital. So he can ask for another 10% if he needs, for trades that week. He's running a little bit short. He can ask for another 10% of your capital, up to a maximum of 50% of your capital. But that stays with the liquidity pool, and that's where the brokers will request that money from. It's never going to NWP. So NWP never sees your money. It goes straight to the broker or to the payment gateway. It's going nowhere else. So that's the security of the system. Now, We talk about that Saturday ritual and how this verification works and how you would do a withdrawal of your profits. So you wake up on the Saturday morning, you see your profits, and you go, right, what do I want to do? Well, the only thing you really want to do with your profits is because they're not doing any work for you, if they're just sitting in the payment gateway, is make a withdrawal. That withdrawal comes straight to your private crypto wallet. Now, why emphasize private crypto wallet? Don't withdraw to your exchange or anything like that. Make sure that it's your private wallet, something like a Safe Pallet Trust wallet, MetaMask, those sort of things that are in your control. Those ones where you opened a wallet and you had the 12 words. Everything's in your control there. Now, the reason why you do that, if you make a mistake with a private wallet, you can find your money. If you make a mistake and send the wrong currency to an exchange, it's gone forever. So rather keep control and withdraw it to a private wallet. Also, in the cases of exchanges, every time you send them money, and if you're sending them regular money, and they're going to ask you questions. If it's your private wallet, you've got the answers. You can answer your own questions. No third party is ever going to ask you questions because it's your private wallet. So keep control with the private wallet. Now you're going to decide what you're going to do once this money is in your wallet, and you've got two choices. You could then send it to your exchange because you want to exchange that crypto that you've received, your USDT, for cash, or you're going to send it to your debit card, whichever your decision is. That's one thing you could do with your money. The other side of it is you could decide to then redeposit it back into the system. This is a manual process, as you can see. It's now the profits have come to your crypto wallet, and you're deciding whether you want to put it into your exchange so that you can get it back into your bank or onto your debit card, or you're going to deposit it back so that you can get that compounding effect. It's your choice. You make it every week. If you did decide to put it back, you will put it back into the system. Remember, when it's in the system and you've deposited into the NWP system, you will still need to click the invest button and open a portfolio so that it can go into trade. As long as you've made that, opened the portfolio before Monday night at midnight, don't leave it until midnight. Rather make sure you've done it sort of before 10 o'clock in the evening. As long as you've done it before Monday evening, the profit will, or the money will be in trade, and you will get profits for it on this coming Saturday. So therefore, you've got a little advantage. You've got 4 days. In case you were delayed or something on the weekend, you've still got up until Monday evening to get your money in, to get the trades and the profits for the week. Getting started, it's very easy. Ask the person to send you a registration link. When you register, it's free. Get your crypto, deposit your crypto, open your portfolio, and on Saturday, those profits will be at the third-party payment gateway. All I can say is please ask questions, don't rush. There's no, when it comes to things, sometimes not everyone's familiar with crypto. Don't be scared to ask questions. And if you take your time and do it systematically, the things are easy. If you rush and get flustered with it, that's when things go wrong. So if you getting flustered, stop, wait, ask someone to help you. There's always someone to help, and they will be able to assist you and get everything done and help you smooth. If you get flustered, you might just make the wrong decision, click the wrong button, and send your money somewhere where you can't find it again. You don't want that to happen. Looking at these profiles, and you might look at it and say, well, I'm talking a lot about $1,000, and gee, I don't have $1,000. So what can I do, and how can I really get started? Well, what I want to do here is look at an example of $23 per month. Can that make a difference? Now that's around about $400 or less, depending on your exchange and the fees that you might, but it will be less than $400. Rand, not dollars. $23 per month, 400 Rand. Can that make a difference in your life? Well, let's have a look at that. Now, if you look at putting $23 in for 60 months, that's 5 years. the total capital you would have deposited would have been 1,380. If the exchange rate stays about the same, you would have put in 24,000 Rand in 5 years. You can put 24,000 Rand in tomorrow. It doesn't matter. We're just using the example here of $23 for 60 months or 400 Rand for 60 months. What is the result going to be after 5 years? And here you're looking at when you've got profits, you simply put those profits back on the week that you can and add $23 for the month. So that growth projected over 5 years will give you $10,000. So that's 1,380. That's become $10,000. That's taking you from the foundation portfolios into the growth portfolios. Looking at your rands, you're looking at about 24,000 Rand that would have grown to 160,000 Rand in 5 years. You can accelerate that. This is just an example based on only $23 or 400 Rand thereabout per month for 50 months, 5 years. To help you, and where do I find sums like this and calculations so that I know how $23 works? Well, we've got what we call a weekly calculator. That's an Excel sheet that you can actually download, and you can then put in your whatever you want per month. You start off with your 23, you put in your 23. Now, let's say, for instance, something that you might not know. Let's say you put in an amount and you wanted to withdraw an amount on a monthly basis. Put a minus. So if you wanted $23 per month to be able to withdraw that, for instance, just put that as, instead of additional deposit, you just make that a minus 23 or minus 500 or minus 5,000, whatever you wanted to earn on a monthly basis. You put that in and see how it's going to look. Obviously, if you're withdrawing more than you're earning, then you're dipping into your capital, not your profits. So, but the calculator will help you determine things like that. If you're unsure, ask someone and they'll probably be able to help you with the calculator. This calculator, incidentally, is found on our link tree. We've put together this link tree so that you can see the videos that introduce the ideas and concepts that I'm showing you this evening. It's very simple. It doesn't get more complicated than what I've told you this evening. But there's also the partners plan, which is when you introduce your friends and how you're going to get a little bit of a bonus from introducing your friends. And then, because the WhatsApp chat support is a long number and it's based in Canada, it's not easy to write down. Inside the link tree, you can simply, if you're using the link tree from your phone, just simply click on the link support and it will automatically open WhatsApp and you'll be able to type your message to support. When you're contacting support, always just mention your name and mention your ID number for the NWP system, which, if you don't know where your ID number is, just go to your genealogy tree and you'll be able to find your number there. As I mentioned, the new back office is coming out within a day or two. So as soon as that comes out, we'll have a session introducing you to the new back office. It's very similar, but obviously it's new. So there's a lot of interesting, different reporting there. Especially one of the things people asked for, and I haven't spoken about the boosters because there are no boosters, but for people that have put boosters or taken boosters in the past, the new back office will also tell you how many weeks or how much money you still to earn and before your booster ends. This is all about building your legacy. As I mentioned, NWP is built on substance, performance, and it's decentralized. This is all about generational wealth. So when you want to get started, just contact the person who invited you this evening, let them know, and you can get started. So just to give you one more example before I close, and we've looked at this on a weekly basis now, what happened, we looked at starting with $10,000 in week 80. So that was 5 weeks ago now. And let's have a look at what happened. In the first week, which was week 81, this is the growth portfolios. This is $10,000. So that's the middle portfolio in the NWP system. You can see the result there, 2.095% for the week. The 199 is after the 5% was taken off. And I'll show you how that works out in a moment on the new week. But you can see here how the account grew on a weekly basis by simply adding the profits and merging them back into the system. So we look at this week, that's 2.23%. Let's have a look at the mechanics of this so that you can understand more about the weekly process and how that works. So looking at this, and we're looking at the result of 2.23%, as I mentioned, we start off with that amount that we've now, from last week, we've got 10,784 in the system. That goes into trade. The traders will work with it on a weekly basis. And at the end of Friday, the profit is declared, and that profit was generated for the week, and that is then sent to the third-party payment gateway. When it arrives at the third-party payment gateway, the full profit for the week is actually 240.48. And then once you make your withdrawal to your crypto wallet, that will then give you, after your fees that are going to be calculated on that 240.48 at $12.02. And then when that actually arrives in your crypto wallet, it's 240 less the $12.02. Therefore, 228 will come directly to your wallet. And remember that in the NWP system, you can only use 228 because they don't accept the cents. You can deposit the cents, but you won't be able to open that in the profile. So you can just leave the cents, and when they accumulate, you can then add them to your new amounts, as long as it's $1 or more. So 228 will be added, but you decide, you can decide, oh, no, this week I've got some expenses. I need my 228. It's in your private crypto wallet. You decide if you want to send it to the system or not. It's always your decision. You're in control. So if we look at now what happened, you've got this 10,784. It was in a growth portfolio. And now you put in the 228 in. What happens here is when you put in 228, it's identified as a foundation portfolio because it's less than 10,000. So what you would need to do once you've opened that portfolio is simply merge the portfolio. Now, the merge function is available during the week. It's not available on the weekend. So if you had done this on the weekend, you just wait until Monday or Tuesday, anytime during the week. As long as you've done it before Friday, you merge them, and you will still get the profits in the growth portfolio for the week. And therefore, this new week will be, the profits on this account will be determined as 11,012 that the capital is, and the profits will be on the $11,012. Now, there's the full example, just filled in the 228 to show you how that $11,012 came into this profile. Now, with NWP, you're not a member, you're a partner. We have discussed this even in the portfolio partner. That's you having direct access to the professional asset managers, your capital at work, and it's a simple system where you have access to your capital at all times, unlike the normal system. Then there's the partner program. That's where you can invite your friends and you will earn a little bit on what they earn. You're never paid an upfront bonus or anything like that. You simply will share in some of the profits, but it's coming to you from the business volume and not from their profits. That's a way of building up a weekly income, but it's not like those typical networking bonuses that other companies offer. It's simply a partner program or an affiliate program. Right, that is my presentation for this evening. Are there any questions? Thanks for your time so far. I do appreciate it. Any questions? I see. Let me have a look in the chat here just to see if there was any. What is the minimum profit withdrawal? I see that question there. $10. The minimum that you can withdraw from the system is $10, and therefore 5% of $10 would be 50 cents. Therefore, you would receive $9.50 in your private crypto wallet. Any other questions? Anything you would like to know? Please
Can I
don't
ask a
be shy.
question?
Yes, certainly, Marlon.
I just want to know, you spoke about the merging of the total. Now, what I said, only start with $10 and our money is just laying there. We can't withdraw it. Can't we merge that money into the $10?
No, unfortunately not. So the minimum withdrawal that can be made is $10. So when you've got $10 in the system, and you'll be earning your profits, but until such time as you've got $10 to withdraw, it'll just wait there. And when you've got $10, you'll be able to withdraw it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Pleasure.
No, Rich, I just want to ask something interesting.
Yes.
If you in your growth portfolio, like you took a travel booster, for instance, now you're getting money. You can't merge anything that you get now with that travel booster because that's totally different thing, isn't it?
It is, yes. Yeah. The boosters, unfortunately, are separated from the normal portfolios. They, what's known as a closed portfolio, where all your normal portfolios are open portfolios. There, because the booster gives you the advantage of the doubling, and that's where the money is locked in the booster system. So you've got in the case of the travel booster, you've got the advantage of the travel and the doubling. So that's the reason why it's locked. But all other portfolios you can do as you want and merge. But unfortunately, you cannot merge your profits with your travel booster.
So you have to build it up, get it eventually to 10,000, and then you can go take it. And then you merge and you take it over to the growth portfolio.
Yes, yeah. So it's whenever you have got $10,000 or more, then you're able to merge those profiles together so that you get a portfolio that's worth $10,000 or more. And every time you put in at that stage, your profit for the week, like I showed you there on that 228, you would just simply take that 228 and merge it to whatever's in your profile, your portfolio, growth portfolio at the moment.
All right, thank you.
Pleasure. Just in terms of the wallets, and I had a very interesting person. He made a withdrawal, and he couldn't find his Polygon USDT on his. He had a token pocket wallet. Then we tried the same 12 words, because you can all those 12 words. They all are what is known as the Ethereum virtual machine. So you can use it on any single wallet. They are most of them will identify the same wallet if your words are correct. Now, in this case, we put the words from his token pocket, we put it into a trust wallet. We couldn't find it on a trust wallet. We then put it into SafeBell and we found his money. So when I say never get stressed, there's always a solution. As long as you've got the words and you take your time, we'll help you find it. But don't get stressed. That's the most important thing, because know that if you can see it on the blockchain, it's definitely somewhere and we will be able to find it. So that sort of also says that SafeBell is one of the better wallets. Not that the one's better than the other, but the reason why I like SafeBell, and I personally, I tried Trust Wallet for a couple of weeks and just got so frustrated with it, because it doesn't show you what you've got. Whereas in SafePower, you can say, I only want to look at USDT, Polygon, and Polygon, the gas fee itself, because that's what I use as my transaction. If you've got some other funny thing, or they send something, one of these airdrops or something stupid like that, then that will override what you've already got in and you won't be able to find your things. So SafePal has full control. Just the only thing I can say about SafePal, is never change the fees. So it might give you an option where you can use a low, medium, or high. Whatever the default is, and it's normally medium, just leave it there. I tried the other day to do some transactions using a low fee, and it just got stuck in the system. So don't do that. Use whatever they come up. And I see it is changing on the later versions depending on what you've got. But if you see the options, don't change the options. And you know, when you see medium, low, or high, it's almost like a sale, and you know it's got that attraction where you think, oh, I can save myself money. Now, when you look at Polygon fee, the most you will pay is 1 cent. So how much do you think you are saving by going a lower fee? Honestly, you know, half a cent or a 25th of an actual cent, that's not a saving. It's just a frustration. So just go with it, you know, whatever the default setting is on your wallet, that'll be 1 cent and off it'll go. So don't adjust that, and then you'll never have any problems with your wallet. If you play with the fees, and I did that just to see how it would go, nothing will happen, or it will happen. But what happens with all of these fees is there's a miner that has to take those fees or accept those fees to do the transaction. When the fee's too low, the miners aren't interested. They're just going to leave it lying there. So just go with the default. The system will select the default for you. And yes, in some cases, you might be, one day you'll pay 1 cent, and the next day you might find you paying 2 cents. That's really not a deal breaker. If you're short of Polygon, I will send you the 1 cent. If you think you need 1 cent, I will send it to you. Honestly, if you need the money, just let me know. And also, in that same thing, if you need gas, do not buy gas, okay? Because as I say, you need 1 cent per transaction. Therefore, for about 6 months, you may get to $1. If you're doing a lot of transactions, you're going to get to $1. How much do you have to buy? $3 or $4. So that's going to be enough for the next 3 or 4 years if you buy $3 or $4. Don't do that. Ask the person who introduced you to send you a couple of cents. And if they don't have, then they can ask me and I will send them a couple of cents. Okay, it's that simple. Well, I've taken up almost an hour of your time, so I do thank you for that. I hope that you've understood a little bit more about the system. I hope that the new presentation has given you a little bit more information than the other one. And I heard it could be tonight, could be tomorrow, the new back office will be out. Maybe, but definitely before the end of the week. So let's just see, and you will see a lot more reporting in the back office. And but the basics are still the same. But if there's anything different, but we will have a session explaining the back office once it's up. Thank you very much. Do have a good evening. And yes, we will also be having presentations on Thursday nights. They're actually specifically designed for the Dubai market, but the basics really don't change. So instead of, we might be talking about dirham instead of rand, that might be the only difference, but there's still the basics of the dollars in the system. We just might use some local currencies in our examples as opposed to rands as we did tonight. Good. Well, thank you very much. Do have a good evening further. It was nice seeing you all, and look forward to Saturday, as that's always the exciting time.